Thank you, Kate, for being a part of my Job Tales podcast. And today's episode is going to be all about you and about your job. You are a makeup artist in the film industry, and that's how we met, actually. We met on the set of Black Sails. And I would like to ask you, what do you do as a makeup artist? What does your day look like?
Well, my general day starts very early, and we're generally the first people to get there because we have to get all the actors ready for whatever the shoot's going to film. So normally my day would start at like maybe 4 or 5, if I'm lucky at 6. And then we work our way through the makeup call, which could be anything from getting one actor ready to getting 10 actors ready. I don't really do crowd, so I generally do more like makeup for leads, which will be in a makeup truck. So you set up your stations and then make sure everybody looks the way they should look, help your team get through the call. Yeah, then you go to sit and stand by, do any changes, look after the actors, do all that kind of world. Or you end up back at a workshop or back at the truck and you prepare for whatever comes up next, and you do fittings and you make builds and you create styles and wigs and makeup looks, and yeah, generally like that. And then the end of the day, actors come back to you again and you clean them off from whatever you've stuck on them. And then you reset everything to be ready again for the next day or change it to whatever it has to be.
So basically your day is pretty full, and you said you're the first to appear and then you're among the last ones to leave?
Yes. Especially if you do something like a period production where you've got wigs and facial hair and prosthetics that either take a long time to put on or take a long time to take off and reset, or all these kind. Like if you do a contemporary show, maybe not so much, but if you do anything a bit more elaborate, then yes, you'll be early and late.
Right. So it's a makeup artist that also takes care of prosthetics. Is that right?
Sometimes. So we generally, if it's a big show, you've got a prosthetic department separate, and they will do all the bigger prosthetics. And if, depending on your team, you would still look after smaller prosthetics. That depends on the designer. It depends what kind of designer you work for in the end. She chooses who does what, and then that gets distributed throughout the team.
What are your skills in order to do the job on a film production?
Again, it kind of depends which world you work in. So I worked a lot in England. So in the UK, you do everything. So you do hair and makeup, not so much prosthetics. Prosthetics then becomes a bit more elaborate. But you'd definitely be required to be skilled at cutting hair, styling hair, maybe not so much coloring, but it'd be the more you do of hair, the better, the easier it's going to be for you. And then makeup, which will be beauty makeup, not so much fashion in my world, but probably like maybe some special effects makeup is definitely required, breakdown makeup, character makeup, aging, those kind of things quickly come into play. And then if you'd work in America, you'd only do one. So you'd only do hair or you do makeup.
Oh, okay. So it's more specialized.
They've separated for some reason.
So when I'm thinking of makeup, a makeup artist, of course, I've seen you at work. I've seen you in action. I, of course, don't know what you had to study in order to become one. So what is the path between the time that you are in obligatory studies to when you become a makeup artist? Are there special schools, or is it all about practice? How does it work?
There are special schools. There's no like regulations, to be honest. Like you could be very talented and go, I'm going to be a makeup artist, and somehow make your way, and that could be that. However, in my world, I'm a fully trained hairdresser. So I trained as a hairdresser in Switzerland for 3 years, a full-time apprenticeship. And then I went to London and I did a makeup school, which was a 3-month school that covered all the kind of basics that you will need as a makeup artist. And from there, I became a trainee. And then I was a trainee for, must have been nearly 3 years. And then I learned everything else. And then slowly worked my way up from there to an artist, to a key artist, and then to a supervisor.
So when you were a trainee, was it at a film production? or at a hair salon?
At a film production. So after I finished my makeup school in London, I contacted about 1 million makeup designers in the UK and tried to convince them to employ me. And eventually one did. And then I was her trainee for a good 2 years, I think. And she kind of then taught me everything that you actually need to know, because obviously you know how to do hair, but you don't know how to do hair on a film set, and you don't know what a call sheet looks like, and you don't know what the schedule means. So all those things is what you then need to learn, and how to work around difficult people sometimes, and how the set etiquette works. Like there are a lot of nuances that you learn that you actually can't really learn from reading or from, you actually just have to do it.
What is one of the set etiquettes that you're talking about?
For example, not being in the way and doing your job without being in the way of anybody else, and knowing when it's important to do your job. You have to learn, we watch what's being filmed. You have to learn what's important in that picture for you to say you have to go onto set and you have to change it. But if it's a huge fight sequence and everybody else is concentrating on a fight, is that hair that's moving really important? Like if you see inexperienced people, they'll just go in all the time and hold up filming. The more experience you get, you understand what you're actually going to see eventually, and what actually matters and how much of it is important.
Because during shootings, it's really your call to go and do touch-ups?
Yes. So normally they'd rehearse and then they call checks once. So you go in and do your final checks, your makeup checks, and you set everything how you want it. And then they start moving. Obviously, it's a moving picture. So each time they cut, if you have to, you can go and change it again. But obviously, the more people that go onto set, the more irritated the crew will get, the more irritated the first AD will get. The actress, if it's a complicated scene, don't want you to come in and touch their face every 5 minutes, because that also irritate them. So it's very much learning the right moments is a very important thing.
And going back to the skills, if you're in Europe and you can only do makeup or you can only do hair, will you get a job, or do you really need to do both?
You will, especially at the moment. There's a lot of work around, and we have I've just done a job and we had probably about 22 makeup artists working with us. And some did only hair, some did only makeup. The people that did only hair, we try to teach makeup, obviously to a certain extent, if they're interested. Like you do learn on the job. The more you work, the easier it'll be if you do both. And I think automatically when I see people who only do hair and they come from a hairdressing background, they pretty much soon go, I'm going to go and learn, and I'm going to do a course, or they watch you and they want to know what you're doing. Because otherwise you just kind of miss out a little bit.
What did you do to convince the makeup designer to hire you as a trainee?
I had a long email that I sent to a lot of people. As I say, probably about 50. I probably got about 3 replies. And then out of the 3 replies, this one designer eventually agreed to meet me, and we had a chat. And I ended up working for very little money, quite far away from where I actually lived, and worked very hard.
How long would it take? I mean, in average, also with the people that you met in the same department, how long would it take between you, let's say, I don't know, you're 15, 16, and you start your apprenticeship, and how many years later can you say that you are ready to be independently hired?
I mean, if you do my route, obviously the apprenticeship takes 3 years. If you say you live in the UK, they don't even have that system. So there you could do like a basic NVQ as a hairdresser, learn a bit of hair cutting, which I think it only takes like half a year. And then you could do a makeup school. So you could probably become a trainee after a year and then work your way up. In my world, obviously it took a bit longer. Like it took me 3 plus probably 2 years until I earned a proper amount of money. There are so many routes, it's really hard to say, well, this is exactly how long it's going to take. Like I've seen people who just kind of did art school. They've come from an art school background and then worked their way into the makeup world. And they do great because they obviously have a beautiful eye for color, and they have that side already. So that's an entirely different way of getting into it. And then they slowly learn other things.
And when I think of productions that you've been on, what are some that we might know?
I've just finished a TV series called The Wheel of Time, season 2, which is a big Amazon TV show. And then obviously I did Black Sails here for quite a bit. I've done a lot of period dramas. I've done things like Nightfall, and I've done a really cool show about Picasso and Einstein, which was a National Geographic TV series. I've done a lot of TV, actually, kind of ended up in TV. Did a bit of Game of Thrones, which everybody knows. I've done a lot.
And of course, period dramas, they can, you can actually specialize as well into that kind of, hairstyling and makeup. Not everybody may know how to do that, right? It's like a plus for you to get that job other than others, I would imagine.
Well, I guess that's where my background comes in again. So because I've trained as a full hairdresser, I could do like the finger waves and the Marcel waves, which, for example, is a 1920s, 30s kind of skill that you need if you dress a wig. Or I've learned already how to do wig sets with all the old ladies that used to come to me, because that was part of my training. So when I became a makeup trainee, dressing wigs was already a lot easier for me. So very quickly, without me actually doing anything, I kind of was the person who was put onto the wigs. And then I was recommended as the person who can dress the wigs. And then that just kind of put me into that bracket without me doing much, actually. It was just, that was my skills. Whereas if I would have had an art background, I probably would have ended more in let's say the fashion world or the makeup world, rather than, I wouldn't be specialized in wigs, which is kind of somehow seem to be right now. If that makes sense. So it depends what your background is. I think that'll then automatically, as you go, you just kind of end up in whatever area makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And from the time where you sent out your resume, your CV, and then you became a trainee, have you used your CV again? Did you have to apply for jobs, or were you then called from job to job?
I've used it again. I was called from job to job for a while. And then this makeup designer that I work for at the moment mainly is from New Zealand. So she didn't know who I was, never heard of me. But her supervisor recommended me. So she definitely wanted my CV at the time. And then also when you do bigger productions, often production wants to see a CV because the designers to validate that they want to fly you out. So they wouldn't fly somebody out, say, to New Zealand to do a job without experience. So then you got to send your CV and they check what you've actually done. And then they go, okay, now we'll fly this person out or not.
Yeah. I see. What is let's say, the hardest job you've had? Have you had some difficult times in your job? And if so, what was it?
So this job I've just finished now was pretty hard. The last leg we filmed in the Western Sahara on a sand pit with high winds. So let's say that week was very, very hard physically, and also, so things like that get hard, like filming in a sandstorm, but you're there for 12 hours. The toilets are far away. You have to walk over sand. It's not in a studio. In a studio, it's easier physically. But then also, Black Sails was hard work. You had 2 units at all times. We also had a team of probably about 20 makeup artists. So there's always some hard in every job. I don't think any of my jobs are ever easy.
When you are a makeup artist in the film industry, are you mainly independent, or can you be employed by a company?
Independent.
And so you're the one who's looking for the next job.
Yes.
After that one is over.
Yes. Which either some people have an agent, again, country dependent. So here in South Africa, where I'm at the moment, most makeup artists I know actually have an agent, and the agents recommend them for jobs. In the UK, once you're a supervisor, you might have an agent. Otherwise, it's word of mouth. You get recommended, or you write. I guess you could write to designers if you were interested in a specific job.
Okay, so then you build up basically a portfolio of designers, and then over the years you can, either they call you or you call them, say, hey, what's coming up next month or so.
Yeah, you might tell your friends that you're free and you're looking for work. If I'd really want to have work, you'd probably message.
Yeah, if you really,
you start messaging all your mates. They're oh, what are you doing at the moment?
Yeah, right. Because now you told me that you just finished working, and you're gonna, for the next month, you're gonna be taking some holidays and stay put in South Africa, which is great. Which I think it also be very attractive as a job, because it gives you freedom. and you know that you'll get a job eventually, but you can sort of set your pace if you want to have a break. So I guess this could be very interesting for some people. Do you know already what's your next job?
I don't. I don't.
Okay. And you're not worried?
No, not anymore. I used to worry, like
Okay.
even until maybe say 3 or 4 years ago, when you finish a job, it takes about 2 weeks, and then you go, oh God, I'm never going to work again, and you start stressing out. And then I've realized that something generally comes up, and if you really do want to look for work, you do actually find work. It does mean often my world is, it could be that I sit here and I go, okay, I'm going to have 2 months off. And then somebody messaged me and they go, okay, but do you want to do this job? But you got to travel in 2 days. And the job's going to be 6 months in somewhere. So that's a big side of my life. Like, yes, you get the free time whenever you want it, but you also, if somebody offers you work, you're most likely going to take it. And it could change all your plans. So like often, if people ask me, what are you going to do in September? It'd be very difficult for me to go, yes, I'll be there, because I actually don't know.
Yeah. What kind of soft skills do you need to have, personality traits that would be best for a job like yours?
It'd have to probably be, the calmer you are, the better, but still quite confident. Like, we deal with a lot of, it's a very male orientated world, I think, the film world. So you definitely have to have a certain amount of confidence to be able to do your job and to get what you need. Probably also have to have a bit of a tough skin, because it's not always lovely and people get very tired. We work such long hours that you have to be able to deal with tiredness and maybe not take somebody else's tiredness on, and deal with maybe somebody not being that nice, including actors. They're not always nice. They're not always easy.
People skills, right? And is there any lesson you've learned in the past that has helped you over the years?
And probably to stay calm and not take everything too serious at all times.
I remember from the days of Black Sails, when you are, it is quite a stressful environment, and so staying calm, maybe for people who don't know what a film job is about, it could sound like a normal day at work, but it's actually true. Like, you need to multiply it by 10 probably, and so I think it's a very good advice. But it has to be given, it has to be given with a certain importance, this advice, because it can be very stressful, and so the calmer you keep, the better.
Yeah, I mean, your day can be, a million things can come at you in 5 minutes. Like, you could have a WhatsApp group with 5 people messaging at the same time. Your actor wants to ask you something at the same time. The AD is talking, you've got a radio in your head, and then at the same time the designer might tell you something. So you end up in very stressful situations, and if you don't kind of just at least pretend to be calm, to be honest, that sometimes you just pretend to be calm.
Pretend. Yes.
Actually, quite often you just go, I'm good.
Yeah. And you obviously knew that you wanted to be a makeup artist since your earlier age. Is there, if you go back in time, would you do exactly this, or would you do something different?
I probably would do this. I love my job. I always wanted a job that I could travel with. And I didn't really like hairdressing. Like, I started hairdressing and then realized quickly that it wasn't creative enough for me. So this or jewelry design, between the two of them.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Has to do with art anyways.
Yeah, I couldn't quite imagine an office job. I don't think that would suit me too much. So
the industry where you're working is really attractive to many people, and it sounds glamorous. It is probably very glamorous, and it's very creative. It's exciting. It's a big industry. Of course, over the years it has become more and more difficult to be part of this, relatively closed community. What do you suggest some young people, young men or young women to do in order to land a job in that in your field in the film industry?
I suggest to, as I say, either like learn as much as you can about hair and then maybe do a makeup school, or just do the makeup school. I think the makeup school is a good start because at least you meet industry-based people. Like I don't know how I would have managed to get to where I'm right now if I wouldn't have done a makeup school. Obviously, it depends where you live in the world. That's probably easier for somebody in Europe to go to London and quickly do a 3 month course than it would be for somebody living in Japan. Like there must be different routes for depending where you come from. But generally, and then you try, I mean, maybe at the beginning you do some unpaid work. Like I did unpaid work at the beginning for events, but it was also through somebody I'd met at school. So like, there's no such thing as a directory. Like there's no such thing as emails that you can find. I mean, you can try and email designers, but it's very hard to find actual contact numbers. Like you could try and get the email address of a designer from an agent, but most likely they don't reply because they get so many emails. So really it is at the beginning to just try and become a trainee, do some free work if you have to, and then work really hard and just make yourself stand out. And working hard, this can be things like, it's actually at the beginning, it's more just being aware of what's happening around you, like watching if you're following a makeup artist to see what she needs to give that person whatever they need before they know what they need, because that's how you're going to stand out immediately and they go, oh, you're a good trainee, I want you back. So at the beginning, it's not actually so much if you can't cut hair, but you're a really, really good trainee by watching what's happening around you and by always helping the team, then you're probably going to get further. Like you can still learn to cut hair later if you're enthusiastic and if you're excited and if you could concentrate, and you can, all those things count actually as just as much. You know, if you've got a trainee that she might not know that much yet, but she's unbelievably helpful, then you will in return teach that trainee what you know. So, you know, like I spend a lot of time teaching people how to dress wigs if they're interested and if they work hard and do all the other things. So there's time for that.
Awesome. What's next for you? Well, I guess you're going to keep working as a hair and makeup artist, right? For the film industry? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
That is very nice, and I really wish you all the best for your next job and your next 1,000 jobs. I also find it very interesting that it's not always the same job. Like when you're working in a company, you know, you're going to the same office, or maybe you do some travels, but it's the same company, it's the same product, it's the same. But in the film industry, it's always different story, it's different production, that's different crew. You meet a lot of people. So I guess also for people who are really much into others and into making friends and meeting lots of different crowds around the world, it's really a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I mean, you end up spending 3 months, I don't know, in the desert in Morocco, and you meet people that you'd normally never talk to. So it's great.
It's great. I do miss that. Thanks a lot, Kate.
You're welcome.
For giving me this interview, and I will be in touch. Should anybody have some questions, maybe it'd be great if you want to answer. That'd be fantastic. I'll let you know.
Absolutely. Okay, absolutely. All the best.